hitting any pylons, but as we exit the turn, you'll see Tyler is going to flick the elbow, asking me to pull through, and really I have only one choice, and that's to attack him here. Hey everyone, today we are looking at the 12th race in the NCCX series. It was a beautiful day of racing down in Salisbury, North Carolina. We raced here both on Saturday and Sunday. The goal of this video today is to show you why technical ability, your confidence, and your line choice are critical to having a good CX race. You'll see how one of my closest competitors, Tyler, was able to use his superior technical ability to gap me in a number of spots on this course and really force me to spend my entire day trying to catch up to his wheel, especially towards the end of the race. Here we go at the start of the bike race. You'll see I kind of bobbled the start a bit. I think I missed my pedal clipping in and lost quite a few positions, but number 257 there on the orange bike right in front of the camera, that's Tyler. He's the rider we're going to kind of focus on and compare, my strengths to his strengths and see how it plays out at the end of this race. You can see as we're going through these first few turns, I'm not super confident in my abilities, and that causes me to get dive bombed here on the left and right side. And as we go along here, I can see the front of the bike race. I'm not too concerned with the spots that I lost. I know that once we get through these left and right hand turns coming up here, that there are 3 long straightaways back to back that I'll be able to hopefully move up and make up some of these positions on. So at this point, I'm just kind of holding what I got, trying not to lose any more positions, make up spots if I can, but focusing on just taking good lines until we get to those straightaways. So here we go, right after this off camber that I definitely overshoot. We're going into the first of the long straightaways, and you can see Stefan here, he's really laying down the power, and I go ahead and jump on his wheel. We're going pretty quick, so drafting is definitely to your advantage on these 3 sections. So we're coming up to this right-hander now, and I screwed this up pretty much the entire day, but the worst offense was definitely right here on the first lap where I almost hit that stake. It cost me a position, but again, going into this long straight, I know I've got the ability to make it up, and I think about coming around this guy here, but then he really puts the hammer down, so I just sit in his draft. So now we are on another one of the long straights. It just has this gentle left-hander into a right-hander here. And I can see the guy in front of me is kind of losing steam a bit, so I know I'm going to have to jump him. I look for it here on the left. It's not there. I come back to the right, and now I'm able to come around him and try and get back up to Tyler's wheel here as we come through this long, open left-hander. As we move towards this next turn here, you'll see I take a different line choice, and I think it is the better line. Just hanging it out wide. You don't really have to slow down through that corner at all compared to the guys in front of me. And you see it brings me right back onto Tyler's wheel here as we progress through these next few turns. Got a rider kind of on my left as we're coming up to this left-hand turn. And I give him the room. You can see if he wants to cut that turn because I'm not too worried. I know we're going to 2 more right-handers right here. We're coming up to a key feature here. It's this left-hander. You can see that rider on the left is tripoding because it's very slippery, dusty gravel. It'd be really easy to wash out there. But the thing is this leads to a long straightaway right before a wooded section, so you really got to be on top of it because your positioning going to the woods is critical, as we'll see later on. Coming up to the entrance of the woods here, I just had to close a small gap after that gravel section, and you can see Tyler here is he's going to lead us into the woods. And I really want you to pay attention to the gap that we currently have and where this gap is going to end up by the end of this wooded section. It's pretty crazy. So we're all taking fairly similar line choices. I get kind of brake checked here by the rider in front of me, so lost quite a bit of momentum, which doesn't help this situation, but back up to speed quick and working our way through this wooded section, just trying to find all the clean lines here through the woods. And look at that gap to Tyler, and this is not even the worst part of it. Now we're about maybe halfway through the woods here, and just popped up over those little mounds. And again, look at this gap to Tyler at this point. He's gapped all three of us in this group, and we're all taking different lines here. And at this point, I'm just thinking I just got to do the best I can to find the right line for me, hopefully not get stuck behind a rider there, and continue to try and limit the gap that Tyler has put on us all. So we're out of the woods and we're on to the 2 straightaways kind of before the finish area, and this is a good spot for me to try and make up some ground on Tyler. And so you can see my shadow there. I'm in the drops, and I'm really going for it and really doing my best to close this gap down. We're on to bell lap here as I pass the lane on the left, and you'll see Tyler's got a gap on me here. And what's been happening is we enter the wooded section, Tyler gaps me, and then I work the rest of the lap to close that gap down, just as we saw previously. It's great foreshadowing for what's about to come here as we approach the race finish. Coming off of the long straightaway, we're approaching that corner that I had been screwing up pretty much the entire race. But good news is this time I do take a good line through it. I avoid hitting any pylons, but as we exit the turn, you'll see Tyler is going to flick the elbow, asking me to pull through, and really I have only one choice, and that's to attack him here. And my hope is that maybe he's tired and he's not going to chase me down, or maybe he's just confident in his skills to bring me back in that wooded section. But either way, I know I've got to get to the front at some point, and so I choose right now in hopes that he just wasn't ready for it or wasn't willing to chase it down. Coming through this turn here, I give a quick glance over the shoulder and I can see Tyler has pretty much closed the gap to my wheel. So at this point, I'm okay with just going ahead, setting the pace on the front, and making sure that no one comes around me before any of these more technical sections. So we're at that tricky left-hander on the gravel before the long straightaway into the woods, and I'm happy I'm on the front here because I got to control the pace through that corner, and now I get to be on the front before the wooded section. So I don't have to try and fight anyone for positions, but I know that as we come into the long straight before the woods, I'm going to have to put the power down. Here we go. Last straightaway before we enter the woods, and what you can't see going on behind me is a pretty good battle in our little group to try and be the first person into the woods. We all knew it was going to be a critical point leading into the woods. I knew that I could not let Tyler hit the woods before me, or else I'd be spending my entire time chasing him in this section. And as you saw earlier in this video, that just didn't work out for me, right? He opened up a huge gap. So I know at least worst case scenario, if he does come around me at some point in the woods here, that I'll be able to at least limit the gap that he would have opened, had he entered the woods ahead of me. So we're about halfway through the woods here, and at this point I'm like, holy cow, I'm actually going to hold him off. And then next thing you know, he starts to pass me on the right side. So I don't really think he was doing that much more wattage or more power than I was at this point in the race. I think it was just really his confidence in the line choice and his, technical abilities here to open that gap. And like I said, I kind of saw this coming, so I'm not really freaking out. I'm just doing my best to keep my head down, make line choices that I'm confident in, and just not let the gap open anymore before we exit the wooded section here. We're out of the woods now, and I'll go ahead and narrate these last few turns here. We got a right-hander. It's a little dusty with a root on the exit, so you got to watch that root. Make sure you don't wash your front tire out. Now we're coming up to this wide left-hander, and I know as soon as we exit this turn, I got to go full power and do everything I can to shut this gap down to Tyler. So we're out of the turn. I move over to the drops, start switching gears, and really putting as much power as I can into the pedals to try and shut this gap down. So I claw my way back to Tyler's wheel here before this quick right-hander, which then takes us into this quick left-hander. And then we have to get off the bikes here to get over the barriers. And I'm feeling pretty good because I know I've got a quick run, and I'm like, I can make up this gap and then bobble on the remount. So I have to run a little bit further, get on the bike. At this point, Tyler's full power, full gas on the pedals, and he just leaves me in the dust here. Tyler crosses the line here in 5th, putting me in 6th place for this race. Overall, it was a great battle between he and I, and we really know each other's strengths and weaknesses at this point in the season, and that was pretty evident in how we raced today in this race. I really left this race knowing where I stand technically, what I need to work on, and that's exactly what I'm going to do this off season, so that we can come back next year and continue to have great battles with good guys here like Tyler, and look forward to it next year.
You're racing that like a pro.
I hope you enjoyed this race recap video. We did end up racing out here the next day for the NCCX finale and the double points race day. We had some great group racing, some real grass crit type stuff. So keep an eye out for that, and thanks for watching.